the approval of the order of the agenda. We have a number of changes this evening that have been requested, and I'm going to go through them real quickly. Commissioners, if I get anything wrong, please correct me. Regular agenda, item number 2 will be removed from this evening's docket. And in its place, if you go to the consent agenda, item I was the approval of the agreement of the Burien and Associates for the development of the Water Smart grant application. That will replace item number 2 on the regular agenda. It has also been requested from the commissioners on the consent agenda that items J and K also be removed. They're requesting additional information. Commissioners, is that everything?
I think so.
I would also like to request that item F be pulled from the consent and put on the regular agenda.
Did you hear that?
Item F.
Item F on the consent.
Commissioner George has requested that item F on the consent agenda, Sierra Townhomes assignment of a pilot agreement, also be moved to the regular agenda. Commissioner George?
Correct. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so item number two on the regular agenda will now become item I, the agreement of Burien and Associates. Commissioner George's request will become 8A.
And just for clarity, items J and K
are being removed from both agendas for additional information. The commissioners have requested additional information. I thought we were going to discuss that. Okay, if that's your preference. My misunderstanding then. Okay, then they'll be 8B and 8C. That's just fine. So again, Sierra Townhomes assignment of pilot agreement is being moved to 8A. Item I from the consent agenda is going to be item number 2. Item J and K from the consent agenda will become 8B and 8C. All right, is there a second, please?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the amendments. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item C on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of February 1st, 2021. They have been distributed. They are in the packets.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Been moved to approve the minutes as presented of February 1st. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Olson. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of February 1st. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C is the approval of item D is the building permit report. It has been distributed. Are there any questions, comments of the building department?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second, please? Second. Commissioner Jurdevig seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the building permit report as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have items A, B, C, D, E. F has been moved to the regular agenda. G and H. Item I has been moved to the regular agenda, as has J and K. So we have items A, B, C, D, E, G, H, L, and M on the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second, please? Second. Commissioner Jurdevig seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the amendments as just outlined. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now in the regular agenda. The first order of business is the second reading of the rezoning and final plat approval based on conditions listed in the staff report for the Steffes 9th edition, previously referred to as the Agassi edition. Replat and rezoning from R3, multiple dwelling, and heavy commercial to PUD, planned unit development. Mr. Soberg, Director of Planning and Zoning.
Thank you, Mr. President and Commissioners. This is the second reading. There have been no changes. The applicant has met the conditions in the staff report that were placed on it at the first reading and from Planning Commission. They are available if you have any questions, and we've received no comments to date since the first reading. So I am here tonight to encourage you to follow through the second reading on the rezoning and approve the final plat based on those conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Soberg. Are there any questions of Mr. Soberg on item number 1? Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Jurdevig. It's been moved to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Olson. We have a motion to approve the second reading of the rezoning and final plat approval based on the conditions listed in the staff report for the Steffes 9th edition, previously referred to as the Agassi edition, replat and rezoning from R3 to and multiple dwellings to heavy commercial to PUD. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Soberg. Item 2 on the regular agenda is the approval of the agreement with Burien and Associates for development of the Water Smart Grant application. This is with Director of Public Works, Mr. Matt Anbick.
Good evening,
Mr. Anbick, good evening.
Good evening, Commission, President, and Commissioners. I'll just give you a little background on this, and I apologize for not putting more information in the packet that you got. As you know, you guys approved last year the AMI project, which we are going to replace 9,000 water meters this year. Most of those meters are 5/8 and 3/4 meters, which are the residential. That leaves about 2,042 meters left over that are the larger meters. It came to our attention that there's a grant out there where we could get some funding to either put endpoints on or update the remaining meters that we have that are out there. And that's what this, I'm asking for your approval for tonight, is just a development of the grant. And the cost to develop the grant is in there, and that is, just to develop it is the $14,600 for the initial one. And then after that, I think they add in here they just did basically a 5-year phase if we did this over the next 5 years, with the option of each year after this if we wanted to apply for that grant each year. And if there's any changes that's where that $3,000 amount would be if we had the consultant apply for the grant in the forthcoming years. And the grants are up to, the projects cannot exceed over $200,000, and you have a 50-50 match up to $75,000. So what we were looking at doing was kind of budgeting out $150,000 per year to start replacing these. We probably start with trying to get as many endpoints out there and currently, and then work our way to replacing the meters that either fail or just start replacing these. And these are the bigger meters. They're 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch, and 4. I think we have a couple 6-inch meters in there. And those are the higher priced meters where this funding will really help, keep the cost down to the city to do that. Mr. Kellen Grubb is here from Burien and Associates too, in case you have any questions for him. I guess if you guys have any questions.
Questions for Mr. Anbick?
I guess my only,
Simmons?
thank you, Mayor, it's not even a question, it's just more of a statement that the only reason I wanted this pulled from the consent, because for future, whenever you ask the commission for money, it can't be on the consent agenda. It needs to come to the regular agenda. So, you know, and I realize this is maybe money, maybe not, but it's still money. I mean, they're gonna want something, so that's the only, otherwise I have no concern with it.
Okay.
Thank you. So, a question for you, is the nature of the grant application, difficult or burdensome that we would pay a consultant to write the grant rather than one of your own team members?
I guess I could have the consultant, step in here for this, but a lot of it has to do with, it's more of it shows our water loss, and by putting these meters in, what it will, it's a water smart grant, so it shows how, by putting these meters in, we can save more money to do it, and it's kind of a little bit more on the study aspect of it.
So it's more than just the grant application?
Right, yeah, there's a little bit more to it.
As the way it was stated, and, okay, that's fine,
Right.
thank you.
And I do have a
Please,
question.
Commissioner Olson.
So, and you got here on, it's page 94 of the packet, phased in year 2, 3, 4, and 5. Do we actually have to pay the consultant? If there's no changes, would we have to incur those additional costs, or can we just keep resubmitting the same grant if there's funds available?
If there's funds available and there's no real changes to it, yeah, we could probably just handle it in-house and do it.
So then there wouldn't be that cost?
It wouldn't be that cost. We just wanted to put that in there so there was, that's what the total could be if there were changes and we had to go that route for those years. But more than likely, we wouldn't need to.
And just to refresh my memory, what is the endpoint again? Is that
The
the part
endpoint
that...
is the radio contact that sends the signal out that connects to the meter, and that's what will send to our AMI towers.
So if we could get the grant and purchase the endpoints, we could install them onto the existing meters until they fail, and then we would replace them with an actual meter at that time?
Correct, yeah. If we can get those endpoints, and I would say probably about 80 to 90% of the meters we have of these larger meters will accept the endpoints. So then some of them, if they don't accept the endpoints, would have to maybe try, those would be the first ones we'd maybe change out. So that way we could get just about all our 11,000 meters in town on that AMI system a little bit faster, and with the grant a little cheaper as well.
Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you. So maybe I'm misunderstanding this. So you're saying tonight that, I'm assuming by giving permission for this, we're allowing you to spend up to $14,600.
Correct.
If you need. So we are giving permission to spend money then?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Additional questions for Mr. Anvic? Excuse me, Ms. Richard? Does Commissioner George have her hand up or anything like that? Is that how you're gonna communicate whether or not, Commissioner George has anything?
Commissioner George's mic is open, so she can speak at any time.
Okay.
To type in.
Very good, I just wanted to be clear on that. Very good. Questions, anything else for Mr. Anvic? Okay, Commissioners?
I'll make the motion to approve the agreement between us and Berrien to apply for the water grant.
Thank you, Commissioner. Olson, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Jurdevig seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the agreement with Berrien and Associates for the development of the Water Smart Grant application. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Anvic. The next order of business is to hold a public hearing for a partial vacation of 3rd Avenue Northwest and final plat approval for Curry's Industries addition. Mr. Solberg.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Tonight, we have before you a simple plat. However, within it is a partial vacation of a roadway, 3rd Avenue Northwest. This is in the industrial park area of West Fargo at, excuse me, I forgot the address here. The Curry Industries development. Typically, we wouldn't have any issue with the plat. It's a light industrial zone property. There's no yard requirement, so there's no concerns. However, there is a public road within here. The public road has never been improved. It's been utilized for Curry Industries for parking and storage of materials. Never been an issue because they've just developed along there and gone along their business. Now they're looking at some enhancements to the site, potential expansion, and so they've asked to both combine the lots that they have, as you can see on the map before you, as well as vacating a portion of that roadway. Initially, our biggest concern was the city infrastructure underneath that portion of the roadway. Not a lot of concern for access. However, there is a small little piece of land here owned by Bush Ag that is essentially not utilized. We've reached out to them on city projects as well as this property. So the end result is that they're going to maintain an access easement through this of 80 feet, which is the standard right-of-way. That'll give access to that lot if they need it, as well as maintain the easements for our city infrastructure that we might need. If in the future they choose to vacate that, they'd have to abandon that, utilities underneath that, and have to come to some sort of an agreement, whether purchasing that Bush Ag lot or providing means of access another way. So, tonight I'd ask the commission to open a public hearing for the partial vacation of the roadway, and, after that, if there's no concerns noted, to approve the plat and the partial vacation. We have, gone with the city attorney's office to make sure we've properly noticed this, and, believe we've met all the conditions for the plat as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solberg. Any questions of Mr. Solberg before we go to the public hearing? All right. At this time, I'll close the regular agenda and we'll move to a public hearing regarding the partial vacation of 3rd Avenue Northwest and the final plat approval for Curry Industries addition. We are in a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone that would like to speak to this issue? Again, it's a public hearing for the partial vacation of 3rd Avenue Northwest and a final plat approval of Curry Industries addition. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this issue?
We do not have anyone online with their hands raised at this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Richard. I have closed the public hearing and we are back in the regular agenda. Is there any additional comments or questions that the commission has of Mr. Sobert? Commissioner Olson.
So what you've got on the screen right now, on the north part, those long skinny lots, where exactly does the vacation start of the street? I'm right there?
Yep, right at the beginning of the property that they have ownership over.
Okay.
Yep. They are kind of working with this property owner to the north to ensure that they have access and they get what they want to do there. They've had good relationship with them and are working out what they can. They want to maintain that in case they want to get some sort of an access road in there. But I do foresee down the road in the future, 3rd Avenue Northwest would not extend past 12th Street Northwest. There's just not much need for it, so.
So there's a legal drain on the east end of it, and then you got the...
Yep, Drain 21.
And railroad tracks and all that good stuff too.
Yep.
Mr. Sobert, I participated in this planning and zoning meeting. With regard to Bush Ag, I know that you've had conversation with the local management. Were you ever able to reach corporate with regard to the issue here?
Our city engineer reaches out to their council probably once every couple weeks or a month, and this is very low on their radar, and they don't respond very quickly. No response, okay. So it's hard to hold up. Curry's biggest concern is expansion of Echo. They want to be able to respond to that if Echo wants to expand. So this is important for them to do that. It's an important step for them to be able to do that.
Curry Industries is a great corporate partner in our community. There's no question. A great employer.
And we've been keeping our economic development director up to date as far as what they're doing here, so she can be ready to tell us to move as fast as we have to if we need to. So,
Mr. Shockley, do you have any concerns being that corporate Bush Ag has not responded to us and us moving forward whatsoever?
I do not. And,
thank you, sir.
And I would echo what the city planner had indicated. We reach out to them on a monthly basis, and they're very slow at responding.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I'll make the motion.
I'll make a motion to
the
approve.
replant.
Thank you. Commissioner George, could you restate what you said? It was hard for you to hear us.
Oh, sorry, I just said I'd make a motion to approve.
I didn't hear that.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Commissioner George moves to approve. Item number 3, Commissioner Olson seconds. It's been moved and seconded to approve partial vacation of 3rd Avenue Northwest and final plat approval of Quarry Industries. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Soberg. Item number 4 is consider and hold the first reading of all proposed ordinance amendments in one action, or if necessary, in separate motions for each proposed amendment. Mr. Solberg and Mr. Hausch. Good evening.
All right. I'm just here to ask to get our building codes and mechanical codes and fire codes updated to the current 2018 edition. I've sent everybody copies of the reasons behind the amendments to the code, and I'd entertain any questions or concerns that you have with that.
Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Hausch? Again, to the public, this is the upgrade of the building codes, both from the state, the national, and the like. Mr. Hausch and his team have went through these very specifically. These amendments that we're adopting are what are adopted with the state and the national, and also within the major communities within this Cass County. So there's continuity and consistency between the various cities. And of course, it's everything from venting a furnace to plumbing requirements and everything. So there's actually about 4 or 5 different ordinances that are affected here. So, Commissioners, you have any questions with regarding to any of these amendments? Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one mark here. We, before or after, in between, in the middle, you know, as far as Fargo and the other cities, where are we at in that line as far as getting these all passed? Are we all in the same, pretty much the same?
Yep. There's a few little tweaks here and there, but it's more because of the way we do things here versus Fargo or anywhere else in the state.
But for the most part, it'll be continuity?
For the most part, it's a verbatim, so.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
The amendments are to Chapter 5, which is buildings, Chapter 6, which is fire protection and prevention, Chapter 7 is heating, air conditioning, and combustion units, which includes ordinances 1174 through 1180.
I would make a motion to approve them all at one time, if we could, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second, please?
Well, I was hoping we were going to tackle them all one at a time, but I'll second the motion.
Yeah, there's only 1,000 pages, but thank you, Commissioner Jurdevig. It's been moved and seconded to approve the amendments in one action of all the proposed building codes changes. The amendments are, again, Chapter 5 for buildings, Chapter 6 for fire protection and prevention, Chapter 7, heating, air conditioning, and combustion units, which includes ordinances 1174 through 1180. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hausch. Okay, item number 5 is the approved resolution accepting a bid and award contract for improvement district number 1315.2. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, and good evening, Commission President Dardis and members of the Commission. Bear with me as I get through the 1,000 pages here that you just approved.
You could have just put your cursor up where the numbers are in the upper left hand and typed in 288, and it'll bring you right there.
Right on. Thank you, Commissioner Olson.
Now you went to the blue screen of death now.
Uh-oh. Oh, that's... All right. Well, in your packet today, we are bringing back for I believe this is the fourth time you've reviewed this particular project. It is a development in Westview, 3rd edition. It's the last phase of Jason Ide's residential development just on the north side of 40th Avenue. We conducted a virtual bid opening on February 11th, and the results are attached and available within your packet. Everything looked good. We had a nice competitive bid. I believe there were eight bidders.
Good.
And as you can see in your packet, there is a letter from Moore Engineering where they identified that the low bidder is Dirt Dynamics LLC in the amount of $337,911.85. And the engineer's opinion of probable cost that was approved within the engineer's report was $416,000. So we are underneath the estimate that was reviewed. And so at this point, staff recommendation is to approve a resolution accepting the bids and award contract to Dirt Dynamics for their bid of $337,911.85. With that, I would answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Questions for Mr. Scott? Your pleasure, Commissioners.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second?
Commissioner Simmons seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the resolution accepting the bid and award contract for Improvement District Number 1315.2 to Dirt Dynamics for $337,000. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries on a 4-to-1 vote. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Item number 6 is to discuss the Lagoon decommissioning plan for 2021 budget amendment. Mr. Anvik.
Bear with me 1 second here. All right, excuse me, Mr. President and Commissioners. Tonight, we'd like to bring the Lagoon decommissioning plan in front of you tonight. To kind of go back, we put a lot of information in your packet. We wanted to make sure that you had pretty much everything that we've got for about the last 2-3 years in there, so you kind of know where we've been and where we'd like to go. So with this, try and get here. Let's see. Well, what would we like to do? Well, we found out that it would probably be best or cheapest if we could do it in-house. And how we'd like to do that is we'd like to create like a storm sewer crew of 5 people. It would be a crew chief and 4 equipment operators, and then also hire an engineer to go with this. And with anything, you know, adding staff, it's always like, okay, what are they going to do once this project is done? And by adding this staff, especially the storm sewer crew, we would have a crew that would take care of our storm sewer lift stations, different sinkholes, maintain the lifts and the storm sewer system itself. Currently, we don't have enough employees to cover the storm side. We spend most of our time on the sanitation lifts because that takes priority over the stormwater lifts. In the end, this would take a lot of maintenance off and just cost of being able to extend the life of the lift stations that we have. Also, they'd be kind of their own crew to do more snow removal in the winter as the downtown builds up and different areas in town where we need to haul snow. that's gonna take extra people, and this would have a crew ready-made with the equipment to, take over that snow removal and then free up other people in the street department to, plow the streets for the level that the residents have been accustomed to. And then also with the engineer, with a project this size that we're anticipating lasting about 10 years, we need kind of a point person on it as well to kind of take care of any kind of planning, the documentation that we'll have to have on this, and any of the engineering that we'll need. And then also it would help out the city engineer as well, because with the projects they have, right now we wouldn't have the staff to take over overseeing this kind of project with the staff we have. And kind of what it would be, financially it'd be cheaper than if we sent this out on bids. We can control the costs. With a project of this size, it's a lot of the unknowns. We don't know what's in the sludge. There's different timing and different ways to handle this project. If we do go with a contractor, you might have a lot of start and stops, and if there happens to be something where we have to all of a sudden not decommission one cell one year because we have extra water that we have to dump in there, that's all an extra cost that would go, the contractor would be change orders and different things. So we'd be able to control the unknowns better, I think, and we would have the flexibility to change that by doing it in-house. And kind of when and why is this kind of coming up now is, we're going to be getting about 500,000 cubic yards of dirt from the diversion starting possibly next year, and we'd like to start on cell 10 to decommission that, to get that ready for that dirt, so we have a place to put that. Go forward here. This just kind of covers what the storm sewer crew would do outside of working on the decommissioning the lagoons. On a year like this, I would expect the crew would be working out there almost year-round. But if we have heavy snow, they would be on, helping out with the snow removal and other tasks as well. This covers what the engineer would basically be doing as well. The majority of their tasks, I would assume for the first couple of years, would be strictly on decommissioning the lagoon and then other small projects that the city engineer had them doing. This is just kind of a rough breakdown of costs that we had. We broke it over a 10-year period. You can see the upfront cost for the first year would be buying the equipment. We have about $1.5 million in equipment cost for there. This further breaks it down a little bit more. As for the equipment itself, we have gotten quotes on that, and that quote that I had in the slide there is actually pretty accurate. We will be able to purchase all the machinery we need this first year for under that amount. Let's see here. And just kind of the summary of it, we can handle it, by hiring an in-house team, and that would probably be funded 70% from the CIP funding, and then the rest of it would be coming from the sewer budget as well. It would give us the ability to handle unforeseen changes, in the project, and then a savings of probably, that was just an estimate off of the estimated engineering report that we had about 2 years ago, which at the time was given a range of about $17 to $30 million. This we're figuring we can come in at about between 12 and 16 million if we do it in-house. With that, I will stand for any questions. The city engineer, Dustin Scott, and Jim Larson, the finance director, are also available for any questions when it comes to either engineering or finance.
Thank you, Mr. Anvik. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Simmons?
Thank you. I have a couple. Matt, I guess one of my concerns is that I read in here you talked about the order and as in reference to how long it's going to last, and it may last longer if we go a cheaper route. I just want to remind the commission that you folks have only been here a couple of years, and we've had some pretty good weather. Prior to that, we had a lot of problems with the smell, and believe me, you're going to hear about it. So when it comes to taking longer to get rid of that smell, perhaps sometimes we're better off spending a little bit more funds to work on that. I know we have in the past. 'Cause like I've said, we've had a couple of good years, and Tina knows that, that's why. But it got bad up here, gentlemen. We heard it from everybody.
Yep.
So I just wanna throw that out there. The other deal I'm wondering about, Matt, is what type of I mean, I get what you're doing, but what type of a consultant or an expert, are we gonna have somebody guiding us through this process other than yourself? Somebody, that's got experience, I guess, dealing with this?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and that actually does the odor question as well. That is one thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because it is one thing that we wanted to be upfront about, that there is the possibility of the odor. Anytime we're messing around with that stuff, there is gonna be some smell. We have contacted a consultant that is local, out of Fergus Falls, that would be able to help us. He's done a lot of it in Minnesota and came up with a guideline for it where we could go with them. He also does the testing that would need to do as well. Through talking with him, there are ways to mitigate the odor as well. Time of year, they said time of year, like in the fall when it kind of freezes up a little bit, we can push that sludge to the side, let it almost freeze dry over the winter, where it'll mitigate the smell some, as much as can. Plus, there's some chemicals that they also sell, and another couple other companies sell that we can spray over the top of it to try and mitigate that odor as much as possible.
Okay, I know when we started this process back in 2016, people thought, oh, next year the smell's gone. No, it don't work like that. I mean, we're 4 years down the road, we're still not there. The biggest question I have is, Jim Larson, is this gonna work? Can we do this? Can we afford it? Yes. Say that really loud so everybody can hear you, please. I'm putting you on the line, but...
So, what I would like to tell you is, yes, it will work. And in fact, what I'd like to tell you is this approach that has been brought forward by Public Works and Engineering actually reduces our risk, if you're to ask me. If we bring in a contractor, we are contracted, we go forward with it, and it is what it is. With this approach, we're able to manage it and move it around to be able to fit to what the needs are. As we start into this project, there will be some discovery that'll happen, and with our own crews, we can address that better. So what if it doesn't work? The equipment can be liquidated and sold, we can get our money back. We can turn around and deal with the staff issues, and then hire a contractor to do it. I have a lot of confidence that we've got the right plan and the right crews to do it, but should it not work, this plan reduces that risk. We also have taken and moved the money through our 2970 fund or our sales tax capital fund to see if it has the bandwidth or the capacity to afford it. Because it's spread out over 7 to 10 years, we did show that it has that capacity and would be a positive move for the city. It puts more stress on that fund, but again, we're going to continue to work with city engineer on our CIP, and we'll continue to move things so that things balance as we move forward. But overall, it's a project that's going to happen. I don't believe we can stop it. And this is the most financially low-risk approach, I believe, from what we've seen.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Commissioner Olson.
Matt, could you move your screen back about 4 slides where it says the breakdown of cost?
Okay. 1 second.
And Mr. Larson may need to stay back up there, because I just want to make sure we understand the requested motion or recommended action is to amend the budget. So how much are we going to amend the budget by? What's the dollar amount, so we're clear and transparent with the public as to how many dollars we're going to amend just the 2021 budget?
The requested amount for amendment on the 2021 budget is $1,926,568. Working with Matt, we did actually go through and create an amendment for tonight that is just for 2021. We would then have the 2022 budget as we move through that process. The majority of that cost is the $1.6 million of equipment. And something that Matt, because the question had come up before, is while we've looked at purchasing that equipment, some of that equipment probably will not be purchased but rented. And that would be a cost savings to the city. An example might be the sheep's foot. That's a specialized piece of equipment, but when Matt was putting this together, they needed to look at kind of a full exposure, which I appreciate, and then we can work back and save more money as we move forward.
Thanks for that. On your screen though, on 2021 shows a 2.14, fund, so that's why I'm just curious where you're getting the difference there.
The difference is, when I put that schedule together, it was just to see the cash flow year by year, and so I used annualized amounts each year, but actually with us starting in June 1st, we will not expend the full amount in 2021. It'll actually be a sliding budget from that place.
Commissioner Trudovik.
So to kind of build on the budget question, Jim, I mean, this is gonna create more pressure on our annual budget when we get to this summer and we're talking about it. I mean, when we approved the 2021 budget, we knew that we were hiring 12 or 13 people, and that was gonna create a gap, meaning we're gonna have to increase mills in our 2022 budget unless we can figure something out. This actually creates more pressure, correct?
I would actually state that it probably produces less, because one of the things that happens with this, by the amount that actually is picked up for the snow removal in the wintertime, we are charging that back to the street fund through this budget amendment that we're proposing. But if we were to go through the budget process, we'd would bring all those staff on for year round. So we believe that this is gonna reduce it, because we're gonna be using funding from our sales tax to carry this project and those staff for these years. It eventually will come through into the full budget. And we're not trying to kick this down the road, but we believe that as the city grows, we'll be in a position to absorb these staff back in at the end of the project, which is that's a 7-year, 8-year out.
So, let me ask it a different way, because I'm still not quite sure I followed that. On the summary slide here, it says 70% will be funded by Lagoon decommissioning, which I'm not sure what that means, and 30% by the sewer budget.
And what it means is the 70% will be paid by the project fund of the actual Lagoon decommissioning, which is being funded through sales tax.
Okay, so 70% is being paid by sales tax. The other 30% is being funded through the sewer fund or the operating budget?
We're gonna actually move it, that 30%, and actually we're moving it to a lower amount because it's just for the street part, and that'll move to the general fund or street, which is an amount of $24,641 would move to the street to handle that snow removal. And that's a cost we're gonna incur anyways, because this is for areas like at the Cheyenne downtown areas and so on.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
I want to assure the public that before we got to this point this evening, there has been lots of meetings, lots of discussions taking place between engineering, planning and zoning, economic development, and certainly public works. And commissioners have been involved in various different meetings with regard to this. Now, I will remind the public that about a year ago, we had a public meeting on this. And at that point in time, when we were having discussions with the possibility of what the lagoon decommissioning might cost the city of West Fargo to achieve that those estimates at the high point were over $31 million. And of course, those were estimates and some engineering forecast of what that might be, not hard costs. And so, with that discussion taking place, and the fact that the number of years that it would take, and the different processes of what the smell levels will be, as Commissioner Simmons has pointed out, we were looking for alternatives. Alternatives are where we would have control and custody of expediting this, or slowing it down, or dealing with the issues as they came in front of us, rather than working with a third-party contractor and always everything is an amendment or a change order. So through the hard work of city engineering, city public works, and Mr. Solberg, also from planning and zoning, is involved in this, Mrs. Fisk, the commissioners, and the like, Commissioner Olson in particular, he has the Public Works portfolio. I think that the recommendation that's coming forth to them this evening is not only more financially viable, we have better control and consistency. We can be flexible if whatever we're trying at the present time is not working, there's other ways. I've charged Mr. Anvik with, searching out, information from the state of North Dakota, from Public Health. They've done that, and they've talked about all the possibilities of what you might run into if you have a mercury, contamination in there, whether or not, all those different things. Because, we've asked a lot of, hard questions, and they've come up with great answers, and still stand in resolve to deal with this and, do what's best for the city of West Fargo at the most financially viable. And I commend all those that have been involved. They've worked very hard on this to get us to this position this evening.
And don't forget our financial guru.
Oh, yes, and Mr. Larson, our numbers cruncher also, and Mrs. Fisk obviously have been intimately involved. Thank you for that, Commissioner Olson. They've been a critical part of this as to making it work. From a first purview of seeing this, when we look at the investment, both from a manpower standpoint or the potential of purchased or leased equipment, there's questions that could come forward very readily. But in comparison to what the original bids were of $30+ million, we stand committed as a commission and as a city to reclaim that land, as Mr. Anvik has shared with us, and many other communities across the state of North Dakota and Minnesota. When a city's sometimes done with the lagoon, they shut the valves off and they walk away. And that real property, those acres are lost. They're never utilized again. They become a green pasture. In this case, we have the opportunity to reclaim over 600 acres into our community. And at this point in time, we stand prepared to try and do that for the $12 million. So, any additional questions of Mr. Anvik? No? Your pleasure, gentlemen. And, Mandy, I apologize, Commissioner George, I looked down and your chair is empty, but she is with us virtually this evening, so.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner George seconds. It's been moved and seconded to approve, the Lagoon decommissioning plan as presented this evening by, Mr. Anvik, Director of Public Works. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Anvik. Item number 7, Color Fest, a grant acceptance and local approval. This is coming from Malachi's this evening. It says Lauren Orchard, but Malachi, you don't look anything like Miss Orchard, so we'll go with you.
It is a team effort. Let me see if I can't find it here. Oops. Not seeing it. That's all right. I had a PowerPoint, but I guess I'm not able to get to it right now, so I'll just have to go off of memory, and you'll have to imagine an awesome, well-put-together PowerPoint. But if you folks remember, last year, it was probably around summertime, we had an individual that came to the city who was looking at doing an art project in West Fargo, and she was wondering how to go about doing it. We had never sort of worked with public art before, and so because of that, we formed a working group, and then that working group became a city committee, a public advisory committee on public art. That committee has met a couple of times within the last 6 months or so to discuss various public art initiatives that might be done within the city. One such idea was brought up at this committee meeting was from Lauren Orchard, our economic development director, and that idea was to turn sort of the reconstruction or road diet of the North Cheyenne Street reconstruction project into a fun community event to celebrate the road diet. The idea is to basically close down the street from 2nd Avenue to 4th Avenue, so the 3 intersections there, with the main intersection being right by the POW MIA Plaza, and to hire 3 local street artists to come design different designs to go in the intersections, and then work with the local school district to get kids out to the streets to help paint sort of a paint-by-numbers design in the intersections themselves. There was a grant opportunity through the state of North Dakota's Department of Commerce. It was the Main Street Initiative's Partners in Planning Vibrancy Grant. We, as city staff, applied for that grant in November or December of this past year, and we actually were able to receive that grant for $1,500 from the state of North Dakota. So what we're asking tonight is that you approve $8,900 worth of funding through the Economic Development Sales Tax funds to help support this event, with $1,500 of that being reimbursed by the state of North Dakota after the event has already taken place. Both Morgan and Lorne in Economic Development are going to also fundraise with local businesses to try to get sponsorships to even out the cost and bring some of that money back to the city. And we're also going to try to have food vendors and other vendors there as well to make it sort of a street festival type atmosphere. And the proposed date that we're planning on is Saturday, April 17th, with a rain date of April 24th. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them. But yeah, so basically we just want to do a cool art event, but we need money to do it, and paint is surprisingly expensive. And the original grant that I proposed to the state of North Dakota, I think I only had like $400 or $500 devoted to the actual paint and paint supplies. And then it wasn't until I sort of interacted with some of the members on our Public Art Advisory Committee who are artists themselves that I found out that paint is way more expensive than that.
Mayor, I have a comment.
Is that Commissioner George?
Yep.
Commissioner George, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to say over and over again, the thing people tell me they love most about living in West Fargo is our community events. And I think more than ever right now, people are craving community activities, and togetherness. I think this is actually a super cool idea. I think it's a shame that it's not permanent, but I think it's a fantastic idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner George. Other commissioners?
I would agree with what you said.
Commissioner Olson?
Just another comment. In your write-up here, you state that this was run by the Economic Development Advisory Committee, and they overwhelmingly approved the project. So that's just another thing that they like the project, even though it's going to shut down our street for, the intersections for a day or so to mask out the artwork, and then have later in come in with the kids to do this. The schools are really enthused about it too, right?
Yep, one of the main objectives is to get kids and their families out to Cheyenne Street to shop around, maybe grab a coffee at Thunder Coffee, have lunch or supper, at the Silver Dollar or VFW, grab a bite to eat at one of the food vendors, check out Ferguson Books, that sort of thing. We've had multiple meetings with the school district, with a group of both high school and middle school art classes, and they're all super excited to try to get their kids out to do this as well. And then going off of what Commissioner George said, we feel like this would be a really good opportunity to try to get people out and shopping again and try to get them to come together for an event, because we haven't been able to do something like this in quite a few months, and it's quite frankly been a pretty hard winter. We'll have masks available for people if they want to wear masks. We're going to have hand sanitizing stations, so people can wash their hands. It's going to be outside so people can be socially distant. So following all those COVID protocols as well. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, if you can go 2 pages down, I think there's... So that's kind of a representation of sort of what we would want to do. I've been in conversation with both the engineering department and public works department, and they don't have any issues with painting sort of the middle of the intersection, just so long as we don't have like any arrows or anything that could be misconstrued as road directions or designs that might confuse drivers.
Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you. You know, Malachi, I think it's a great idea, so I'm not going to be down about it, but I see it's even greater that the school district, the park board, and everybody's involved. But nowhere to be found is the YBA. I see nothing about the Yards Business Association anywhere in this program, and that's where it's at. Where's their involvement?
So the Yards, they did submit a letter of support for the program, and then both Lauren and Morgan went.
They did or did not? I'm sorry.
They did.
I didn't see it in here anywhere, their letter of support.
I think it might be. It comes right after the West Fargo Public Schools letter of support and right before the Chamber of Commerce's support.
What's her name?
The Yards Business Association.
Yeah, the chairwoman or the... Okay, I guess I just didn't see it, and I see no involvement as far as sponsorships, no supporting this. They're really doing a whole heck of a lot. And
so we'll be reaching out.
That really should be doing this.
We'll be reaching out for, yeah, sure.
Lauren Orchard, Director of Economic Development, City of West Fargo.
Thank you, Commission President Dardis, and thank you for that question, Commissioner Simmons. We engaged with the Yards Business Association first, before we actually brought this to the school district, and they've been heavily involved, and many of the businesses have offered some sponsorships, actually, so we are very excited to involve and include them. We just wanted to make sure that the event was going to be happening before we got to that point in the process. So they've been involved throughout the whole process.
Okay, I just don't see anything in here. That's why I'm asking why as far as the funding.
Page 338 is their letter.
Page 338.
One of the ideas we've been throwing around too is in our conversation with the middle school and high school art teachers, they said it would be pretty cool if they could get their art students to submit drawings or paintings themselves and then have local businesses put it up in windows and things like that. And so Lauren's talked to Thunder Coffee and I think Ferguson Books as well about potentially putting artwork in sort of that forward-facing windows along Cheyenne Street as well.
People from public schools have reached out to me, and their art classes are truly excited about the prospects of this. It's been a very positive response from them. Commissioner Olson.
So I suppose until we would approve such a thing, you really can't go out and get sponsorships at this point.
Correct. So we have.
That's why we don't see anything in there on that.
I guess I think my point is being missed here, and again, this is a great project, and I'm definitely going to support it. My point is that the YBA is the Downtown Business Association, and they should be spearheading some of this stuff, not just the City of West Fargo. And that's kind of my point, that they should get more involved, I guess, is perhaps what they are. But again, it's a great program and everybody's on board, so I'm not saying it's a bad deal.
I'm going to call on the Director of Communication, Melissa Richard. She also does a lot of interaction with the Yards.
Yes, and we do have the President of the Yards Business Association online and willing to speak right now, if you'd like me to open it up.
Sure. Yes, please.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Thanks, Melissa. This is Nicole Dutton with the Yards Business Association and Thunder Coffee. So I want to thank you all for letting me jump in here. So Lauren brought this idea to us quite a while ago when she first had this concept in mind, and we've been supporters of this whole process as well as asking where we can help. So the Yards Business Association has been heavily involved, I would say. We've talked about different ways that we can assist. Many of us are already on the list of volunteers for that day. And then we're also working with Lauren to get sponsorships in place, different businesses to post the artwork of high schoolers in their businesses so that their patrons can see it, as well as the students and their families can come and see that artwork displayed in the local businesses downtown. And we've also floated around the idea of continuing with this effort and having it be a yearly celebration of summer and art. We've talked about that with the Visitors Bureau as well. Lauren and I have had that discussion and looking at other ways that we can further make art a permanent fixture within the downtown area.
Have any questions for Nicole? Very good. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Of course.
Additional questions for Malachi or Ms. Orchard?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Jurdevig. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner George seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the grant acceptance and local approval to move forward with the Color Fest celebration. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Next order of business is Melissa Richard has something for us for a signage estimate for the Lights Parking Garage and the Essentia Health Plaza. Ms. Richard.
Thank you, Commission President Dardis and Commissioners. Again, I want to apologize for getting this to you this morning. We were waiting on some information from a vendor and it didn't come through quite yet. What I have before you is an estimate for signage to add to the Lights Parking Garage and the Essentia Health Plaza. In my original memo, I have included specific information about signage for the Essentia Health Plaza upper stage signage, and then some estimates for the Lights Parking Garage signage. In addition to that, I've included this rendering that shows a potential location of the logo on the parking garage, as well as this rendering where you can see the City of West Fargo logo is right up on the upper stage next to the Midco signs. I did receive some feedback today about the parking garage and some different options that we could do. And so what I would like to do is ask for your approval to move ahead on the stage signs, but go back to the drawing board and get some more information and opportunities to showcase the City of West Fargo logo and different things on the parking garage.
Questions for Ms. Richard?
What is wrong with the logo on the garage again? Why do you want to hold back on that?
There was a few comments about my original recommendation was to put the logo on the west facing wall and the north facing wall, which are the two areas where people enter and exit. I think it'll make the most impact to be directly there where people are driving in. And so I think we can continue with that. There was a question about putting it on the east facing wall, which is the exterior that aligns with on Cheyenne Street. And so just taking some more time to look at how we can incorporate that into there and make it look nice.
Okay, totally fine, totally fine.
That was my question.
Okay, awesome. Can I still speak?
Please,
there? Okay,
absolutely.
thank you. Can you go to the other one, please, Melissa, if you would? Wow, that's gorgeous. I just have to tell you that.
It is, and it's the best picture we had with the Midco logo on there too, and I wanted to make sure you saw the context of that, so it's a little hard to see the stage, but.
So and that's my question. I'm looking, I'm going, dude, that's a lot of room. But are we actually going 111, which would be what, 10 feet wide by 5 feet in height on that one then?
10 feet.
Because that would be, because how big are those, the Midco, I think is only a 5 by 5, isn't it?
I believe that they scaled it, but it matches the general height of the Midco one. But we can. But
it's longer, right?
Yes, because our logo lays out like a rectangle.
It looks great. I'm fine with it. Keep her big. I like to see that. So thank you so much.
Additional questions? Mrs. Richard?
I'll make a motion to approve, if that's what you want.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Commissioner Olson. It's been moved and seconded to approve the estimates of the signage for the lights, parking, garage, and at the Essentia Health Plaza.
Just to clarify, I'll only move forward with the Essentia Health Plaza, and I'll come back with some more options for the parking garage to tie that all together.
Thank you, Mrs. Richard. Is there, any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mrs. Richard. Now, we are going to go we're going to start with item 8A, which was on the consent agenda, is the Sierra Townhomes assignment of a pilot agreement. I believe, Commissioner George, I believe that this was your request?
Yes, anything having to do with any sort of tax incentives or anything, I guess I would prefer to see on the regular agenda and have the potential for discussion.
Okay, so who on city, okay, Mr. Shockley's smiling at us. So Commissioner George, Mr. Shockley has the floor, and he will be addressing this assignment. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Commission President. This is sort of an interesting, it's not necessarily a tax incentive as you would normally think about. Under Century Code, public housing authorities that are run through the counties, the Cass County Housing Authority, are technically exempt from taxation. And so in order for the city to collect taxes, we needed to have a pilot agreement in place with the Cass County Housing Authority. And so it wasn't really an economic incentive agreement. Absent an agreement with them, we can't collect any funds from them. And so it was a pilot put in place for a period of 25 years in order to collect essentially to mirror what the tax revenues would have been from the property. There's an assignment that's in the packet for the purpose of, there's some complex financing involved, so the Cass County Housing Authority is working with a nonprofit, Beyond Shelter, and also with the HACC redevelopment company. And so they are assigning their interest in the property to those two entities. Those entities are constructing the facilities. The reason that they're doing that is you can obtain special tax-exempt financing. And so as a city, we wanted to make sure that any time they were going ahead and assigning any interest in the property, they had to receive consent from the city, so that we were reviewing and making sure that they were aware of the requirements under the pilot agreement to make payments back to the city. And so it's really it's a good thing. I mean, we're requiring them to get consent. City staff and myself have reviewed it, very standard. That's why we had it on the consent agenda. It was more of a technical issue. Next time, if something like this comes up again, which I don't ever expect it to, because it's the Cass County Housing Authority, we probably should put together a memo and just describe the background. So I can certainly answer any questions. It's sort of an odd one-off deal because of the Housing Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Any questions of Mr. Shockley with regarding the pilot agreement? Commissioner George?
No, I appreciate the clarification on that. That makes a big difference to me. So thank you very much, Mr. Shockley.
All right, thank you. As it is on the regular agenda, it is an action item now.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Jurdevig seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the Sierra Townhomes assignment of a pilot agreement as presented by Mr. Shockley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next order of business is 8B, which is the approval of a 5-year remodel exemption, All Seasons Motorsports has added an addition which has added over $45,000 in additional property value. They have met the application criteria and the minimum value threshold. They are eligible for a 5-year exemption for the years of 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. Commissioners, you requested that this be brought off the consent agenda. We were all in agreement of that. The discussion, please, Commissioner Jurdevig.
Well, I mean, I guess I just have quite a few questions on this. One, why we would just default approve after the fact a 5-year, which to me is an incentive. So to do it after the fact seems wrong to begin with. But also why we would not have this capped, either in terms of years or dollars. Like, from my understanding, if it's over 45,000, like, with the city's, I don't know if it's a policy or not, but that there's, the entire amount over that is exempt for 5 years. And I fundamentally disagree with that concept.
We all, the four of us here, and I think if Commissioner George would have been here, it would have been a consensus. We were all asking some questions. Mrs. Fisk, would you please respond to Commissioner Jurdevig's questions?
Yes, I have a couple comments, and then I know that our Director of Assessing, Nick Lee, is able to speak. He's online. I know that in order for this to be an incentive that can be used, they have to apply ahead of time, and the City Commission has to have passed either a resolution or something to approve the use of this type of incentive. So historically back, I don't know when, I believe the City Commission approved the use of this type of incentive for that they're applying for right now. But I will let Mr. Lee speak on behalf of those things.
Mr. Nick Lee, City Assessor for the City of West Fargo. Please, you have the floor, Nick.
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners. Hopefully you can hear me fine.
Yes, sir.
The process on this goes that people come in and they usually are asking about it, and they fill out the application before any work starts. We go out there and do a baseline assessment. Then the days go by and they finish, and then we go out there and do an additional assessment and verify to make sure that the value has increased over $45,000. You're right, there's no maximum. I was not around, this predates me, but it was passed in Century Code and then approved by resolution with a couple of minor things such as the minimum of $45,000 by the prior commission. And it's unlike all the other exemptions that kind of just get auto checked off, like the 2-year home exemption and the builder's exemption. It states specifically in Century Code that this one must be each one approved at the commission level, and that's what we're doing today.
So, if I can please continue that. So, was this this wasn't approved ahead of time, though? I mean, I think I heard, I forget which one of you, but, it sounded to me like this needed to be approved before the project was completed. Is that not the case?
Nope. This, they apply, we do baseline, they finish a project, we go there to determine if it is going to hit that $45,000 threshold, and then the approval comes.
So,
thank you, Commissioner.
Let me explain go ahead, Tina.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Simmons and Commission President Dartis. I believe what Nick is trying to say is that you take out the application when you're going to start the project, before you start the project. So you just fill out the application, and then a project can either proceed or it cannot proceed, and so then they do the baseline, like he said, and then they go back later and figure out what the gain was. And the reason that it isn't brought to commission when they first fill it out is because the commission already passed a resolution some time ago saying that these are acceptable. And so therefore, that's the procedure and policy that's been followed.
Okay. Mayor.
Please, Commissioner Simmons.
So I can only recall what I've done over the years, Nick, and you weren't here then either, unfortunately, but when these would come before us, and I remember Ms. Wilcox way back when we would have to get these, they would have to come before us prior to them doing the work, if I recall, Tina. Well, that's what I recall, them coming prior to us, and then we'd give the okay, and then they'd go back and do exactly what Nick said. But we never just gave everybody gets it without coming to us. They used to have to come. I remember, because we had a couple we actually probably should have turned down and gave it to them because of that very fact that they didn't know they were supposed to come ahead of time. These are 2 or 3 years old. These are quite old to be coming in front of us now.
Commissioner Simmons and and other commissioners, I know what you're saying. I remember a few of those when I was very new to the city of West Fargo, and the one that I recall was an individual that had applied and did the work and then came before the commission because he did not meet the threshold of the amount of money he was supposed to spend. And so the commission voted to reduce the threshold that that had to be spent. And so that's why we're at $45,000. But it was still after the fact, and the individual was protesting the fact that they felt that they still qualified.
Well, your memory is a lot better than mine, so I'm not going to question your memory. I just recall that I always thought they had to come ahead of time. We couldn't come, especially 3 years later on one of these, and then come and ask for this. And as far as the maximum, it would be, I think that's always been a percentage of, you know, their, whatever the difference is in a 5-year exemption. We've never, I know that's in the books for sure.
I mean, my simple thought on it is, you know, if you build a new house in West Fargo, you get a 2-year exemption for up to $150,000, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure why we would have a standing policy in place that if a year later you remodel that house and add on $250,000, that becomes tax exempt. Like, it's insane to me that we just automatically have a policy to approve 5 years with no cap when we, I don't know.
In my understanding,
Is it part of the policy that it has to be, like at least 20 years old or something like that to approve an exemption like this? I thought it had to be older and not new.
I can't understand.
That is for residential properties.
Okay, so for residential.
Mandy, could you restate your point?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is commercial.
Please?
I was thinking for something like this, it had to be older. And Nick just said for residential that was true, but this is commercial. So is there anything like that for commercial that it has to be so old? Because for me, I would rather support an incentive on an existing property that's being remodeled than new construction.
Right. No, there's no age limit for commercial. It is, when you read the definition, it does have to be remodel of something existing or an addition onto something existing. So nothing straight new could ever apply to this.
Commissioner Olson.
I have a question on the 5-year exemption. Is that in the Century Code that it must be 5 years? Or can we just say 1 year or 2 years or 3 years? Is that an option for the City Commission to limit the number of years, even though we've passed that resolution years ago? Does this commission have the authority to change that number of years?
Yes, you're able to modify that. Our resolution states 5 years for commercial, and then there's a 5 and a 3 for residential based on the amount of money that they add. But it says in Century Code you can change it at any time.
Mrs. Fisk.
I was just going to defer to Mr. Shockley, say the same type of thing that Nick just said, that it's a resolution that's passed and it would have to be amended by the commission in order to do any type of reduction of years or increase in threshold before they meet the requirement. And John will correct me if I'm wrong, because he knows things.
I think that if we do something foolish tonight, we're going to set either a precedent or we're going to make an error. So I would suggest that we table these 2 items and we get a little bit more information on them and reference to guidance from the staff where to go. I do not want to make a mistake judgment tonight.
Could you state that in the form of a motion,
And
please?
that is a motion, Mayor.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Jurdovic-Sessom, moved and seconded. A motion to table is not debatable, so we'll vote immediately. All those in favor of tabling items J and K better known as items A, B, and C on the regular agenda. I'm trying to keep this straight, folks. Please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Staff, Mrs. Fisk, please have the policy in front of the commissioners, and any historical things that are relevant. Commissioner Simmons has some experience with this, probably a lot of experience with this, with the years that he served on the commission. This is a new item for me that I was not aware of, and I'm embarrassed to say that, but let's deal with this, please. Thank you.
President Dardis, I will find the policy, the resolution, and then do some work with Nick and pull up all the historic ones we've done and other types of information. Also work with Mr. Shockley to get that information to you prior to the next meeting.
Thank you. A tabled motion, as far as our commission functions up here, is an automatic that it's brought back in the 2 weeks, just so the public knows that, and staff for future things. If we table something, we expect it back in 2 weeks. Okay? Moving on, thank you, Commissioners. Moving on to item number 9 is the City Administrator's Report. Mrs. Fisk.
Thank you, President Dardis and other commissioners. I'll make this brief. I want to just first ask, our COVID mask strategy expires effective, I believe, yesterday. And so I wanted to get an idea from you if you would like to extend. In talking with staff, our thoughts were to extend it to at least to May 1. And the reason for that was because there's supposed to be a push out to the general population starting in April of the vaccine, and also the concern of new strains that can come from other locations. So we thought, we're doing such a good job, and it's not a requirement, it's a strategy, but people are doing a really good job following it. So that was just our recommendation, I should say, to you to consider.
Questions of Mrs. Fisk? Discussion on that?
I'll be honest with you, I think it's a good idea. I think that we're doing very well, so again, it's not a mandate. Let's just hope everybody listens. So I would make that motion if you want.
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded that we extend the mask mandate or mask strategy, my apologies for the terminology, mask strategy till May 1st. Is there any discussion? My apologies. Public Health reached out to me today, and I shared that with all of the commissioners of their request of the cities in the state of North Dakota with regard to this, to try and convince us all that we, due to the fact that the vaccines have not been distributed in the manner of which that was first anticipated, and a lot of us, when we were looking at forward, was that, we're going to have, I hate this term, but herd immunity in a very quick manner, which we're not going to have. It's going to continue to go on for months and months. So Public Health has requested of the City of West Fargo to continue extending this wearing of the mask. If this passes this evening, I'm going to ask Communications to do a direct correspondence again with the bar and restaurant owners with regard to this. If it passes. If it doesn't pass, then we don't have to be concerned about that. But I've been having a number of photos sent to me on a regular basis about some of our bars and restaurants in the city of West Fargo where we were still under our mask strategy. And the compliance has been awful. We have a false sense of security right now. If you've been following the news, the variants that are coming through on some of these, on the virus in itself, is really scary. So, we need to do the responsible thing to protect the public at large. So, we have a motion on the floor to extend the mask strategy for the city of West Fargo till May 1st. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Commissioner.
Just like,
Please,
sorry.
Mr. Shockley, and then, Commissioner George. Mr. Shockley.
Just a suggestion, you may want to consider May 3rd, because May 1st, lands on a Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
Just
Second to May 3rd. I was taking the lead from Mrs. Fisk.
I don't know what the.
May 3rd, please. Okay, thank you. Is that all
That'll
right?
be my
with the
motion.
motion and the second to amend it to May 3rd? Thank you. Commissioner George, you'd like to speak to this issue?
I just want to say, I represent the portion of the population who will be against this, and I already know that a lot of people are very upset about this possible extension, myself included. And if compliance is low, it's because people don't want it. And I just want to state that I am adamantly opposed to it. If people want to wear masks, great, they can wear them. If businesses want to require it, fine, they can require it. I hate this. For me, this is government overreach that we are requiring it of our residents. I don't like it, and I won't support it. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner George. Again, it's a mass strategy. There's no enforcement. We're not making anyone do it. If you were out and about this weekend, nearly every place that I went into, I was in restaurants, I was in out shopping with my wife, and everyone still had a mask requirement. I can't speak for the bars. I wasn't in them. I'd have to defer to my fellow commissioners for that. So, again, we have a motion. Is there any further discussion? The motion is to extend the mask strategy till May 3rd. Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries on a 4-1 vote. Thank you all. Additional report, Mrs. Fisk?
Just a couple things. I'm going to have Melissa, Ms. Richard, come up and explain where we're at with the Love Your Local program. It's been extremely successful. So I'll have her give an update, but before I go, I want to say that for the first time in years, we've actually been able to win the Pinewood Derby contest thanks to President Dardis. The crux has been broken, the hex on us is broken. The mayor of Fargo got knocked out right away, and Bernie took it over, so congratulations.
Thank you. It was a race to the finish between the city of Horse, Mayor Corey Peterson, and myself. We went 5 heats to determine a winner. I won 3 heats and he won 2.
Wow.
Commissioner, Mayor Mahoney and our new mayor of Moorhead were eliminated very quickly. We obviously had the fastest 2 cars. So after finishing second for 2 years consecutively, I did, we came home with the plaque, and I lost the plaque today. Do you have it, Ms.?
It's at your desk. I propped it up by your screen so you
I
can
didn't know
look
what
at it.
happened to it. I showed it to Mrs. Fisk this morning, and then it disappeared. I don't know who walked off with it, so thank you.
Thank you, and now I'll let Melissa give you an update. Thank you very much.
Just a quick update and on the Love Your Local gift card program, and I would be remiss if I don't also thank Economic Development for all their work on this program. This has definitely been a tag team effort, and so I'm very thankful that our departments could collaborate on this. At this point, we have 80 businesses signed up to take gift cards. We have a diverse mix. We have gas stations, boutiques, coffee shops, tax consultants, insurance agents, just a great mix. So we're very excited about that. The Love Your Local gift cards, we expect to be in mailboxes within the next 2 weeks. And so we expect our businesses to start seeing them before March 1st, which was our target date. So we're very excited about that. We have signage that we're getting out to everyone. We have additional signage that we're posting on our website for businesses to use. On Friday, we hosted a webinar with Factor 4 for businesses who are interested in just learning a little bit more about the technology and preparing, and that was very successful, and the recording is available. We will be launching the $1,000 gift card giveaway this week as well. So we're excited to get the word out about that, and our advertising with our partners will start in March as well.
Awesome. Good news.
Thank you, Mrs. Richard. Is there any questions about the program?
I've seen a couple emails come out that if you come to their place of business, they'll add $10 or do something like that to it. So that was kind of the premise of it, to do it.
Exactly what we wanted to stimulate within the city of West Fargo. Absolutely. Again, to Commissioner Jurdevig, Commissioner Simmons were early on supporters of this. That the response has been terrific. So, staff, thank you for engaging and executing.
And getting her done.
Get her done, yeah. All right. So, anything else for you, report for you, Mrs. Fisk?
No, it's complete. Thank you.
Does the commissioners have anything, non-agenda item that they'd like to bring forward this evening? Does any department head or staff that is in attendance this evening like to bring anything forward? Does any staff that's online like to bring anything forward? Do we have anybody trying to get in, Mrs. Richard, to speak to the commission?
We do not have any hands raised at this time.
All right, thank you. With that, Commissioner Simmons.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Olson.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn. We stand adjourned. Thank you. Me too.
Really, wow.